That's a really tight spot.
Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Q Time is a classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
Stillman College is an HBCU in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where we prepare students for a different world. Stillman is a college of distinction for last year and this year. Our largest majors are business and biology, followed closely by psychology, criminal justice, and history for pre-law, communications, English, and religion. Our newest degree programs are in the Department of Computational Sciences, which covers cybersecurity, data analytics, and math. The Biomedical Academy prepares students for competitive entry into health professions and graduate programs. We have established summer biomedical research internships with major research institutions, such as the University of Alabama, Drexel and Temple Universities in Philadelphia, the Salk Institute in San Diego, California, and the universities of Florida, Indiana, and Iowa. We became creative with social distancing and masks for our students enjoy movie nights at the stadium and the new Melissa and Davis Legacy Courtyard, where you can eat and enjoy friends. We have the Divine Nine Greek letter organizations, student government leadership, and ambassadors. Our small class sizes, nurturing faculty, and friendly environment let you know that Black Lives Matter at Stillman College each and every day. Applications are free. Sign up at discover.stillman.edu. Complete the contact card and apply today. Stillman College, where we prepare students for a different world.
At Tyson, we know taste is local. Some like their beef pit smoked, their chicken spiced all the way up, or their pork sweet and saucy. Local flavors, global impact. That's what feeding the world is all about.
pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown. Going solo today, Charles Edmond will not be joining us, but still a lot to talk about on today's show. The guest menu looks like this. Jim Kleinpeter, he's a contributing writer for The Advocate that covers Southern University. He'll join me in hour number one. Also in hour number one, Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU Football. He'll be joining me. Then in hour number two guests for you. Coach Van Pettaway returns to the Carlos Brown Show. He will be talking some NBA news, the latest news, of course, concerning Kevin Durant. And then also talking about the new hire at Alabama A&M, Director of Athletics. And then last but not least, my colleague, dear friend, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, the Dean of HBCU Sports, joins me. And he's going to be talking about the impact of HBCU Go, the Allen Media Group, the impact not only with the Southwestern Athletic Conference, but Black college sports as well. That's the guest menu for August the 27th. It's week 0. College football is here. We're going to get into some of the big games, but here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. The SWAC-MEAC Challenge is going on today. It's going to be tonight on ESPN. And quite simply, my question to you is, can the SWAC get victory number 5 between the SWAC-MEAC Challenge and the Celebration Bowl? There's only, according to my calculations, 4 wins. 3 from Southern University in the SWAC-MEAC Challenge, Prairie View against North Carolina Central in the SWAC-MEAC Challenge, and then in the Celebration Bowl, 1 victory. That being Grambling State University, 10-9 over North Carolina Central. So desperately, the SWAC needs to start getting some victories when they're going against their counterpart, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. Even the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference gave a pep talk. Come on, Southwestern Athletic Conference, let's get it done. Also, what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show, Southern Athletics to partner with NOCAP, NIL platform for student athletes. And basically, this company has experience. It'll educate the student athletes on getting the deals, doing the homework, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, getting it all done. So that's big news for Southern University athletes. Jaguar football game with Mississippi Valley State will be carried on the ESPN family of networks in November. This game was originally, a 4 p.m. game. It's moving up to 2 p.m. Another opportunity for the Jaguars to be on the family of ESPN networks. Paul Bryant selected as the AD, Director of Athletics at Alabama A&M. And that was the big announcement this week for Alabama A&M. Paul Bryant, of course, has experience in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. I'm going to specifically talk with Coach Van Pettaway to get his thoughts and perspectives. He's an alum of Alabama A&M, of course, former basketball coach. So kind of get his perspective on that. What does he think of the hire, and what are the Bulldog Nation thinking about this critical hire? But he does have experience being in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And then last but not least, I work in the East Baton Rouge Parish school system. So I don't know what's going on. So I check my phone, and then wow. Breaking news, FAMU. Ineligible players, concerned about will the game be played tonight against the University of North Carolina. Isaiah Lands, among other players. The situation with FAMU was just unbelievable. And it just brought back, for me, flashbacks of Southern University. When Coach Dawson Motems was the football coach at Southern University, and they're getting ready to play a game against the University of Louisiana Lafayette. And players were held out right before they're getting ready to depart from Baton Rouge to Lafayette, Louisiana. Maybe a 40-minute drive. So just unbelievable what happened. And this could really be a disastrous for FAMU. And just kind of talking to different people, trying to get their gauge on the situation. FAMU still, a lot of the alumni are not happy when Courtney Gaucher was no longer at FAMU. And I'm going to pull up a graphic, not just yet, but it had me also thinking about the compliance personnel. And you look at FAMU, they only have one person trying to do all of that. And look, I feel you, FAMU alum, with Southern University, the same situation. Texas Southern went through compliance issues. You can name it, Alabama State. But you got to have now resources, and you got to invest in getting as many compliance personnel as possible. And then a lot of student athletes are transferring via the transfer portal. I'm hearing that Alabama A&M may have some issues. Nothing official yet, but the intake process, when a student transfers, what grades, the curriculum, they may be, say, for example, their degree is in electrical engineering. And then when you transfer, will that classwork transfer over? So that's all part of the process, the intake process, what they do to look at that and make sure the student athletes are eligible. But we'll get into more of that with FAMU. Each guest that comes on, I'll just ask them to get their perspective on that situation. So with that being said, let me take a quick time out. When I come back, it'll be more of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. I shall return.
Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
I'm returning to Clinton Parish, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Parish, we take the pain out of being hurt.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant. Authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door. Tell your mama hungry.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on? Sure. It's wireless. Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password? Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable. That's a really tight spot.
Don't worry. I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
That was the human jukebox playing Something in My Heart, and something's in my heart. I really feel for FAMU. You're playing up FBS, North Carolina, week 0, and then 20 ineligible players and down to only, 7 available offensive linemen. That's got to be tough. It's tough under normal circumstances. But when this happens, and oh boy, like I said earlier, it kind of reminded me of the situation when Coach Odom's at Southern University. They're getting ready to play the University of Louisiana Lafayette. They find out they're not going to have players. And then Coach Simmons has to Carolina. FAMU will play on the ACC network against North Carolina, but under dire circumstances. Jim Kleinpeter joins me. Jim, good morning. I appreciate you coming on. We're a couple hours early here on the network for this Saturday only, but good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. You know I'll get up early to be on your show.
Well, I appreciate it. Jim, before we get into the Southern situation and a week from today, they're getting ready to open up week 1 against Florida Memorial. The FAMU situation, that is just, I can only say wild and unbelievable. Gonna get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's obviously a failure of their administration. It's not something that you usually don't see that. But I think it probably points to this new college football world we're dealing with, where so many schools are bringing in so many more transfers now that their compliance offices probably can't handle it, and compliance offices that are probably understaffed. But there's really, I mean, there's no excuse for it coming up 2 days before the game, though. I mean, if you know you're going to have this problem, you should be taking measures a little bit sooner. I don't know all the details. I don't know the inside story on it, but yeah, it's something that may happen to somebody else. It may happen just because of the numbers of transfers schools are bringing in. It's just so much more to process and so much more homework to do.
Yes, a quote from Coach Willie Simmons: "The players didn't feel comfortable playing under those conditions, and they all are understandably frustrated with many of our internal process in the certification process. So they decided not to play. After a few more discussions with university leadership, including the president of the university, the players ultimately decided to play the game. I support these young men 100% in whatever they decide, and I'm extremely proud of them for advocating for themselves." And Jim, compliance personnel, the way I term it, the certification process, I'm going to put up a graphic, and you kind of, and Stan Becton tweeted this information, and you can kind of see how much personnel you have in the intake process, the certification process. And Melanie, if you can put it up, but Southern University, Texas Southern, Alabama State went to the situation. Southern University has, as you can see, the number of personnel 4. Howard has 4. So when you look at that, you have to see North Carolina Central 3, Alcorn 1, Alabama A&M 1, UAPB 2, Bethune-Cookman 2, and you see FAMU 1, Grambling State 1. To everyone's point, and thank you, Melanie. To everyone's point, you've got to make an investment and get qualified people in the academic and the certification process, and then with the resources, you got to have to pay them a good salary. Because Jim, that's a tough job. I would think from the outside looking in.
Yeah, and there's another failure here. It's the fact that they had to backtrack and change their minds and say, yeah, we're going to play. This should have been a discussion that involved the football coach, the athletic director, the university president, or his representative. So changing your horse in midstream this close to the game. Back in 2010, LSU was playing North Carolina, coincidentally, North Carolina. And North Carolina had 14 or 15 ineligible players, found out they were ineligible right before that game. And it was several starters, several of their best players. And, so it does happen, but that's the kind of thing you just can't allow that to happen. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody loses their job over it.
And according to some people I talked to, Coach Simmons is not happy at all. And former director of athletics, Courtney Gaucher, a lot of the FAMU alum, they were not happy after he resigned. And so there needs to be a situation where they need to gather the troops, make an investment, and correct this situation. But I feel real terrible for the FAMU alum and graduates and supporters. Now on to Southern University, and they're getting ready. 1 week from today, hopefully it won't be raining at game time, but the way the weather has been in the rain here, they've been practicing in the rain. Kind of, Jim, tell us where you think Southern is at 1 week from their season opener.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Coach Dooley is very, very. He likes to play it close to the vest. He will not admit that he's got a starting quarterback picked out, and I don't think there's any doubt Bashawn McCray is going to be the starting quarterback. He just doesn't want to say it. But that's that old coaching paranoia about keeping it competitive. He wants the backups to continue to compete. But I think they know the truth. So. But he won't name a starter. He's not going to name a starter before the game. He's going to let us find out on game day exactly who it is. But it's hard to tell. I see them. We get to watch about the first 45 minutes of practice. There's not a whole lot you can tell. They're organized. They run their practices well. They've got some spirit. I think they're happy. I know the offensive players or the wide receivers especially are jubilant about this offense. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fast, and there's going to be lots of work for everybody because when you run this many plays and you run them fast, you end up with maybe 80 plays a game, and that's 15 or 20 more than a regular game that Southern used to play when they would run the ball and huddle and take their time. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. The biggest thing is going to be how does the defense respond to, maybe being on the field, short, 2-minute drives by the offense and then the defense is on the field. So that it's going to mean that the defense is going to have to really be in great condition.
Well, I'll preface this by saying, to your point, yes, Coach Dooley plays it to the vest. Just talking to some people, and I agree. Just in my opinion, I think McCray gets the snaps, but if everything goes according to plan with game one, because they're going to be a heavily favorite, you'll see multiple quarterbacks. What about Harold Blood? I've been told that he has made tremendous progress, and and we can speculate, I guess, is it safe to consider to say that Harold Blood should get the most snaps, number 2, shall I say it, after McCray?
I think that's what'll happen, and I think we'll see him in the first game. He's a little bit more along the model that Eric Dooley wants in his quarterback. He's probably more so than Bashawn McCray. Bashawn McCray is about 5'10", and I think you saw what happens when you got a 5'10" quarterback in that scrimmage. You had 3 passes on the first 2 drives blocked at the line of scrimmage, so that's going to be an issue for Southern as long as he's playing. Blood's about 4 or 5 inches taller. He may not be as fast or as quick a runner, but he can run, and he's probably a better runner than Bubba McDaniel, which is why he's moved up to number 2. So, this Bashawn McCray is your guy, and Blood has been around. This is his 3rd year, so he's. A lot of times just being in college for 2 years helps a guy. It's not how many snaps you've taken in a game or anything like that. It's how long have you been around? How much have you matured? And he's been around. He's seen, 3 different coaches, and he's probably matured in ways not on the field.
Well, it's going to be interesting, and even if you look just by the eye test, Noah Bowden, wow, big kid, about 6'4". I think they have him listed at 218. He's very solid. I'm not going to debate on a few pounds extra, but I think by the spring, then having the spring under his belt, I think it looks well for the future where he'll be competitive. What are your thoughts on him? You've seen him in person. What stands out to him? What stands out to you about him?
He's got a strong arm. That's one thing. He's a good leader. He won a lot of games in high school. I talked to his coach when they signed him, Steve Robichaux, and he just glowed about him. What a good what a good kid he was. He's got that classic quarterback mentality. That's what you want. You really have to have that first, because it doesn't matter how much talent you have if you can't lead a team. You're not going to last long. And I think that's one of the reasons Bashawn McCray is the starter right now. He's a little bit more of a better leader right now. And to that point, I think Harold Blood, it may be a lot more competitive next year when he could beat out Bashawn McCray next year. Especially if he has to come in and play some this year, if he can get some practical experience on the field, SWAC experience, it would go a long way. Of course, Bashawn McCray, as far as I'm concerned, is the starter until further notice. I'm not saying that he's going to ever lose the job, but I think you could definitely say. And then Noah Bodden's the same thing. I mean, there's a kid who has had SWAC snaps. He's been on the field. He's got a very strong arm. He's got the strongest arm, I think, of the 5 quarterbacks. So, that if they all stay around, it's going to be very, very competitive, especially next year.
Yeah, and competition is a big thing. Visiting with Jim Kleinpeter, contributing writer for The Advocate, covers Southern University. In one of your articles, you talked about, of course, and you've been doing a piece by piece, with the different units of the football team, but offensive line, a lot of people perhaps thinking, do they need to rebuild there? But in my opinion, Jim, I think they're pretty solid. O-line is still going to be a strong unit. You agree?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the good thing that's happened, and they had a couple of guys injured. That's never good when people are injured, but they've been having to play some backups in there in the scrimmage. They didn't have their 2 guards, Bernard Childs and Brian Williams, both sat out the scrimmage. So they got some depth working there, and let me, if I can check my roster here on the names. I'm still Kyrie Wade. He's a transfer from Grambling. Apparently, he's been very impressive. And then Eli Fields has been playing some at guard. He's a transfer. And then there's another guy, Travion Garrett Newsom. Dallas Black told me, watch out for him. He's going to play. He's really had a good camp. He's not one of the guys that was projected a starter, but they should be getting their injured starters back in time for the game and in time for the first game. So we'll see where they are on those guys. But I think it's going to be another strong unit. They're going to have they're not going to be they're going to have to be a little more finesse. They're not going to be a road graders like they were under Odoms and last year under Rollins, where they're going to be running the ball between the tackles most of the time. These guys are going to have to be able, and it's harder for the offensive linemen that these hurry up offenses. They're carrying a lot more weight. They've got to, after a 30-yard pass, they got to hustle up the field. It's harder on them to do that. The wide receivers are already down there, and the running backs they're about 200 pounds, so they're not carrying 300 pounds. And the whole game, they're going to be having to hustle down the field. So I think you might see Southern have a rotation of offensive linemen just to keep fresh legs in the game and so they don't get worn out. But building depth it looks like it's been one of their priorities.
And Jim, just listening to you, it reminds me, and you can kind of tell Coach Dooley, the influence of Coach Pete Richardson, because when he was on the staff previously, Southern would rotate. Talking to Coach Miller, the same thing defensively. They believe in quality and depth. And listening to you, I think you'll see that, particularly in the first couple of games. I even believe, of course, in game 2 against LSU, they're gonna use that. and they'll need it, of course, playing up. But offensive line, pretty good and solid is a term I would use. Receivers and then D line. I get some questions about the receivers, but I tend not to worry about that as the fan part of me, because Coach Dooley, a former receiver and a former receivers coach, I think the cupboard is not bare in that room. And then D line is another situation that you get a lot of comments about, but it's not of worry. It's more of how impressive and the potential that the defensive line has.
Yeah, as far as the receivers, I think it's going to be like I just said about the offensive line. They're going to probably play as many as 9 or 10 a game. And I think you throw tight ends in there with them, because the tight ends, you put a tight end on the field, and the defense doesn't know if you're going to line him up tight and run the ball or if he's going to split out. And when you got a guy like Ethan Howard and this guy Dupree Fuller, these guys are like hybrids, and so you can do a lot with them, and you can confuse the defense as to what you're trying to do. So I think you're going to see a lot of it. And they got some big ones, and they got some short ones. They got some slot receivers, but they got guys you can throw it up 50-50 balls, and they'll go get it. 6'4", 6'3" guys, and you need those, especially in the red zones where they're effective. The defensive line, I like what's going on there. They've got this kid Trey Lang has been, I don't know if you would say he's been a big surprise, but he's a good pass rusher. And I get the feeling that even though they keep telling us that Jordan Lewis is still a defensive end, I think he's going to play more at linebacker than at defensive end. I think in some packages and third down packages, they're going to put him at defensive end and let him rush the passer with Trey Lang on the other side, and then maybe Dumas and Peterson in the middle, so to push the pocket. But that's going to give them so much more flexibility having him at linebacker, because he can make play. He doesn't have to just rush the passer to be making plays. He's got speed. He'll run people down. He should be able to. He should be a good coverage guy, covering a back out of the backfield. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Jordan Lewis. I really think he's going to end up playing more linebacker than defensive line.
Yeah, because what their scheme is a 4-2-5. And is there any truth to Lang in some packages maybe playing a little linebacker, or that's just kind of more just Jordan Lewis?
Well, I think it would be. I think for Lang, he might play a stand-up end, but I mean he's a good pass rusher. You want him rushing the passer, and I think what he'll do is if he makes a few plays early in the season, teams won't be able to double team Jordan if Jordan's on the other side rushing the passer. So. So you'll have him in there, and you'll have another threat. So it'll be something for opposing defenses to contend with. But you're going to see a lot of him. He's going to play a lot.
Yeah, very athletic, speed, great bookends, if I can use that term, with Jordan Lewis, and then Dumas. I was going back and looking at some of the games with Prairie View last year. I mean, even against the Texas A&M. He did very well, and he's quick, super strong. And when you hear that Coach Dooley says the front seven, Coach Miller says the front seven is the strongest part of the defense, Jim, I have to agree. But what do you think?
I'm with you on that. When you get to an all SWAC defensive tackle, and he's a guy that he's not that big. They list him. I think they list him at 260s. I don't think he's 260, but he's just so quick, and he anticipates the snap count. He's in the backfield a lot. He's the kind of guy that he may not make a tackle, but he'll blow up a play just by being in the backfield when he's not supposed to be, and it allows other people to make plays. And that's why you look at his tackle totals, and they're not that high. But man, you almost have to double team him, and you have to be quick on the double team. And I mean, Cameron Peterson is underrated, and he's going to probably end up having a good year because Jason Dumas is playing next to him.
Yeah. You won't be able to double team Jordan Lewis, and that is one of the advantages of having Jason on that defensive line. Two more quick things, 2 points for you. I love, and I call them all my adopted sons. The special teams unit. I had every one of them on the show, and they told me, Mr. Carlos, we're going to surprise some people. We're going to be very good. Great article on the special teams play, and I'm going to predict right now. I know the cliche is they'll win or lose a game if special teams play, but I think they're going to win a couple of games because of special teams. But great story on those guys. Talk about that. Then the secondary, a lot of competition there.
Yeah. Well, Luke Jackson, he showed everybody last year 6 out of 8 from 40 yards. He kicked a game winner. I think that was Southern's first game-winning field goal in 8 years or something like. It was a long time since they'd won a game with a walk-off field goal like that, and that tells you the kid can handle the pressure. And then he kicked 2 40-yarders against Grambling in the Bayou Classic. So they're in good hands right there. And then the backup kicker has a strong leg. He's a left footer, Josh Griffin, one of the best kickoff guys in the conference. He puts it in the end zone. I mean, that's a great weapon. So they got a great special teams. And then Robin's Beauplan is a guy that his average was 37 yards, but that's really what you want. You want him, if you can get a 37 to 40-yard punt with no return, that's about the best you can hope for. Punt returns are so dangerous. You got to be careful not to outkick your coverage, because then your defense is spread out all over the field, and you got guys that are linemen that are blocking, and they're not good at open field tackling. So you've got to get that punt returner down with there's like 6 or 7 guys that they're the ones that are going to have to make the play, because the rest of the guys are really not suited for open field tackling. So if they can get the same performance he gave Alcorn last year, I think Southern will be fine. They got and they like their deep snapper. They're getting to know their new deep snapper, Braxton. Let's see, what is his last name? Braxton Blackwell. Yeah. So I think they're pretty much set there. The secondary. This is I'm going to learn a lot in the first game about the secondary, because they played so many. They must have played 16 different defensive backs in the scrimmage, and I just couldn't keep up with them all. They're a much better tackling group. I will tell you that right now, a much better tackling group than Southern had in the secondary last year. They got guys that can play the corner and safety. So the matchups, I don't think the matchups are going to be as big a problem, and you can run people in there. You can use depth. The secondary is the place where you want to use some depth, because those guys are running the whole game. Even if the ball's not coming into their territory, they've got to chase the receiver. They may be chasing the receiver, on a 40-yard bluff pattern or whatever. So, you got to have good conditioned guys there, and you got to have a lot of them. I think they should be fine, but we just don't know, because we haven't seen them put to the test.
Well, on that note, and I would agree, it's so many, but if I can say this, a good problem to have. Not enough is not good. Mm-hmm. And if you have more, then Coach Miller, also the cornerback coach, defense coordinator, they will have a lot at their hands to utilize, a lot of depth. And of course, we'll just have to wait to see game day, the starting units, because Coach Dooley is a very calculated coach. You're not going to get a whole lot of extra, but he reminds me of his mentor, Coach Pete Richardson. Coach Richardson. Yeah. After the tape goes off is when you get all the good stuff. But when you're writing an article or you're getting an interview, He's going to just give you that and no extra.
Well, Southern had better depth last year. They would have gone 7-4 instead of 4-7. There were 3 games that they lost because they were playing people that weren't SWAC quality players, and because of injuries, they were decimated on defense, and that's why you lose. You know, you lead McNeese at halftime, and you don't do anything in the second half. You can't stop. Same thing with Jackson State. You know, you're winning in the fourth quarter, and you can't hold the lead. And it's, you know, you got guys either getting worn out or they're hurt and they can't. I think Cameron Peterson didn't play in the fourth quarter against Jackson State. So if they can develop, the developing depth probably was his number one thing, even before finding a quarterback.
Yeah. Quality plus quantity. 2 words that hopefully will help Southern University in this upcoming season. But this time next week, just kind of looked at the forecast. Think a 60% chance of rain. What else is new, huh, Jim? 26 days, 24 days of rain, straight rain. Hopefully the rain comes early next Saturday. And for game time, it'll just be overcast or partly cloudy. Any closing comments, Jim? And we appreciate your time as always.
No, it's the time of year that we all love. You know, we can't wait for that first game. I always say that this past week is the one that goes by the slowest because it's the last week before game week, and you're all written out. You've said everything. You've talked about everything twice, and so you just want to see a game finally. It's like the game is like your reward at the end of the week. So that's where I'm at. I'm all fired up about that and getting into game week next week.
Yeah, well, I'll sit back and watch some games. Week 0, got a chance to see some talented high school teams on ESPN last night. And this weekend, they're going to be a plethora of games. So sit back, get in the man cave if you have one, and just enjoy it. But, Jim, appreciate the time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And we'll see each other real soon, and we'll talk real soon as well.
It was my pleasure, Carlos. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. That was Jim Kleinpeter, covers Southern University athletics for the Advocate, contributor, writer. I'm not going to take a timeout. I think BJ is logged in, and we'll join him on the conversation. Brandon BJ Jones. I've kind of been getting some text messages about the FAMU situation, and my colleague Brian Fulford wanted me to, and we'll do it in a little bit later, talking about more about when Southern University was faced with their situation, and now how, when you look at it, they've got 4 persons dedicated to compliance issues, and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to extend the invitation to 1 or 2 of them and really get them on the show and ask them what is a typical day in their work duty. I'm just thinking it is really a tough job. And I'm going to say this, you've got to invest in compliance personnel, and then you've got to give them a quality salary. I'm thinking, maybe I shouldn't say, but I'll just leave it at that. As far as paying them and getting the proper personnel in that have expertise in compliance issues, because this certification process is so important. And if you kind of look at FAMU, if they don't get Isaiah Lyons back, and I read they were trying to get him certified for next week. If they don't, you've got 20 people ineligible. Then week 2 is Jackson State. Oh my goodness. It was going to be tough anyway, but under this situation, wow. You just got to feel for FAMU. I think now I will take a timeout. When I come back, I'll be joined by Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU Football. He'll break down the SWAC-MEAC Challenge. Can the SWAC get a victory? Alabama State versus Howard. We'll also, he usually has a top 5 he gives out on Twitter, in the Twitter space. We'll ask him about that and just his thoughts of the week before game day for Southern University quarterback situation, etc., etc. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network. I'll be right back.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Q Time is a classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
Stillman College is an HBCU in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where we prepare students for a different world. Stillman is a college of distinction for last year and this year. Our largest majors are business and biology, followed closely by psychology, criminal justice, and history for pre-law, communications, English, and religion. Our newest degree programs are in the Department of Computational Sciences, which covers cybersecurity, data analytics, and math. The Biomedical Academy prepares students for competitive entry into health professions and graduate programs. We have established summer biomedical research internships with major research institutions, such as the University of Alabama, Drexel and Temple Universities in Philadelphia, the Salk Institute in San Diego, California, and the universities of Florida, Indiana, and Iowa. We became creative with social distancing and masks for the pandemic. Our students enjoy movie nights at the stadium and the new Melissa and Davis Legacy Courtyard, where you can eat and enjoy friends. We have the Divine Nine Greek letter organizations, student government leadership, and ambassadors. Our small class sizes, nurturing faculty, and friendly environment let you know that Black Lives Matter at Stillman College each and every day. Applications are free. Sign up at discover.stillman.edu. Complete the contact card and apply today. Stillman College, where we prepare students for a different world.
At Tyson, we know taste is local. Some like their beef pit smoked, their chicken spiced all the way up, or their pork sweet and saucy. Local flavors, global impact. That's what feeding the world is all about.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
I'm returning Clinton Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being heard.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We're on today from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, but next week we'll go back to our regular scheduled time. That's 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Someone is driving, my next guest, but he's here. Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU Football. B.J., good morning to you, sir. How you doing?
Good morning, Carlos, man. How's it going?
It's going well for me. I'm excited. Week 0, college football. You got high school football. You got a lot of stuff going on. I'm just happy, man. Happy. Football is here.
The most wonderful time of the year, as I call it.
I would agree with that. Well, we've got you on once again. The contract has been signed. You are officially, again, the Coles Brown Show's HBCU football analyst for this year. We appreciate that as well. It was another tough negotiating period, but hey, let me move on. We've got it done. SWAC-MEAC Challenge. Alabama State and Howard. 4 victories between the Celebration Bowl and the SWAC-MEAC Challenge. Break down this game. My simple question, can the SWAC get a victory tonight?
Well, the simple answer to that question is going to be a resounding yes. The SWAC could get a victory tonight. You look at Alabama State, you look at the talent that they brought in, their talented football team. We don't know much about this football team. Eddie Robinson's never been a head coach before. He's coming into his first contest. But up at Howard, man, if you look at that football team, they were close last year. They were close, and there was a lot of youth on that football team. We're talking about one of the youngest teams in the MEAC, along with North Carolina Central, was Howard. And what Larry Scott has brought to that program he has really has energized that program through recruiting. The number of 3-stars that they're signing, particularly out of the state of Florida, to go along with the talent that they already had. Howard's a dangerous program, and I got a chance before I left Atlanta yesterday to talk to some Howard people that I ran into in the airport, and they were saying that this is the game that they've circled because Howard doesn't get a lot of respect from a football standpoint, and they've circled this game as a game to now I'm going to make you respect me, and that's how Howard fans in this program, that's how they're looking at Alabama State, is that we've been waiting on this opportunity, and now we've gotten it. And I'm not sure if Alabama State goes into this game with that same mentality, and if they don't come into this ball game with that same mentality, they'll lose tonight.
Offense, advantage who?
Howard. Howard had the second best offense in the MEAC a year ago. So offensively, it's Howard.
Defense.
Got to go Alabama State. One constant at Alabama State is that defense is going to be good. They might not do a lot offensively, but defensively they're going to be solid. So I'm going to go Alabama State on that one.
Special teams. A lot of people don't think about it or look at it, but advantages and disadvantages. Special teams, who would you give the advantage to?
Going to go Alabama State again. Howard's special teams a year ago was atrocious. They missed extra points. They missed field goals, which came back to bite them, which gave them a few extra losses. If you look at that 3-point losses that they had. So I'm going to go Alabama State on that one.
Now, I think I know the answer of this one. We're doing a quick checklist. Coaching staff. Eddie Robinson.
Oh, it's going to be.
Go ahead, BJ.
If you're going to coach and stuff, I got to go Larry Scott and his guys. Larry Scott, you look at the road that he's taken to become the head coach at Howard, interim head coach at Florida, position coach at Florida. He's cut his teeth, at the Power 5 level. Got some very talented assistants on that staff. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go Howard as far as the coaching staff, and it pains me because my high school teammate is offense coordinator at Alabama State, Harry Williams.
Interesting, and you talk about game day preparation and on the sideline. We'll get a chance to see Alabama State, how they conduct themselves, on the sideline, getting plays in great times, getting in quickly, and even special teams when third down. If you don't get it, getting ready to run off the special teams unit. So you'll be looking at some of those situations as well. BJ Jones likes who in this ball game?
I'm leaning Howard. I think that there's something to be said about the majority of your team coming back with a staff that knows them. Alabama State, everything is so new, so many unknowns, and Eddie Robinson was a heck of a football player in his day at Alabama State. But to go into this ball game, never coached before on any level, that's a big ask for one Eddie Robinson.
And it reminds me, BJ, of the discussions. A high-profile name, if I can use that term, but no coaching experience. We've seen that before, right? In the conference, albeit coaching experience on the high school level. But I think a lot of people believe that is the way to go, and I don't really think that way. I believe in giving coaches that have gone through the process, they've done their homework, and they're just looking for what? An opportunity. I look at those coaches, and I know several are ready for the opportunity, but the trend is now to go to a high-profile coach. But
yep.
I'll disagree to disagree on that one, BJ. That's just my opinion. Your thoughts on that? You're in the coaching profession. I know, BJ, if you want to one day, you would like to aim higher as far as coaching, but you're going through the process of getting it done, and then you don't get the opportunity.
I think there's something to be done, to be said about guys who cut their teeth and put in the work and earn. I mean, and basically they earn the right to get an opportunity, as opposed to getting someone because they have a name or cachet that hadn't put in that sweat equity. So I definitely feel for those guys because at the HBCU level, particularly, uh, that position coach, those are our future head coaches. You look at Coach Dooley at Southern University when I was a receivers coach, then offensive coordinator, then it's that natural level of progression that you won't have.
And I talked to your head coach at Southern University about this, Coach Pete Richardson, the legend, and he echoed the same sentiments that you go through the process and you just need to get an opportunity. But every institution has to make their own situation, their own decision. So with that being said, you like Howard. You like Howard in the SWAC-MEAC challenge. Well, if that happens, BJ, there won't be a fifth victory for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. But I hope I'm pulling for Alabama State. My heart says it, but my head says Howard may just be too much. Your top five, and you still revealed that on Twitter on Tuesday. So with that
Top
being
five
said,
Tuesday.
top five Tuesday, your initial week 0 top five in HBCU
Well,
football.
for the top five, in the 5 spot, I went Alabama A&M. In the 4 spot, I have North Carolina A&T. In the 3 spot, I had FAMU. In the 2 spot, South Carolina State, and then the number 1 team was the Tigers of Jackson State.
Well, I think it's going to be some movement early on. There's a couple more
Yes.
things we're going to talk about. One being your thoughts on the family roster issues. But before then, I had Jim Kleinpeter on, your alma mater, Southern University. We had an interesting discussion yesterday. We won't reveal everything on that discussion, BJ. But the quarterback situation at Southern University, you're a former athlete on the collegiate level. Week before the opener, how put us in the mindset where the team is at now. I know they're anxious to get started, to hit somebody, to play against somebody in a different uniform. But the week before game day, game week, of game Saturday, how you think the guys are feeling?
Man, you're fired up this week, man. The logos have gone, the decals have gone on the helmet, so it feels real. Um, everything you've gone through the spring and the summer, man, you're almost to that point to you're ready to put in the work and show everyone what kind of football team that you are. I think it's going to be a very interesting week. This is like Jim Kleinpeter said it the best. This is always the longest week. Get here but this is the longest week, and it's going to be very interesting. We talk about that quarterback position at Southern University. Coach Dooley said he's not going to make an announcement, which was expected from me. But it's going to be interesting to see who rolls out there and how different offensively Southern looks up under Coach Dooley and a new quarterback, under center.
BJ, that's an understatement. Night and day. Here's the adjectives that I describe Southern's offense the last 4 years. Run on first down, run on second down, second and long, then we have to pass, and then we're going to be involved the tight end. Now, with this offense, which we will see next Saturday, defenses have a lot more to think about. They'll have to defend everything in the arsenal. And with Southern's offense, I think you're going to still see balance. Balance, BJ. Do you disagree with me or agree? Because people are trying to tell me it's going to be throwing 80% of the time. I'm not just sold on that, the 80%. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Coach Dooley's offenses, he's always had one of the top rushing offenses in the conference. From his time at Prairie View, from his time at Arkansas Pine Bluff, from his time at Grambling. Hey, he runs the football. The one Ye Tucker, the Carter kid at Grambling, he's had running backs and he uses them. And this year he will have a plethora of backs to use at Southern University.
Now, Kobe Dillon situation. Again, we know Coach Dooley keeps a lot to the vest. He's guarded at what he gives out. But just talking to my sources, Kobe Dillon's injured. But with that being said, to your point, the room is stacked and it is loaded. I think Southern University still will be explosive in the running back room, despite the injury to Kobe Dillon.
I agree. I think you still have J.J. Sims. You have the Ligon kid that just came in. You also have a JUCO transfer that came in as well. Man, there's a lot of talent at the running back position at Southern. So I think at that position in particular is going to be next man up.
Yeah, and you usually don't like to give accolades ahead of time, but I call Kendrick Ryan's baby AK, Alvin
Yeah.
Kamara, because you look at his film and you utilize him coming out of the backfield. You know running backs will be involved in the offense. You have my personal favorite, and again, I'll just be honest, Dupree Fuller Jr. at tight end. I think you could be
Mm-hmm.
utilized as an H-back. He's a hybrid tight end position. So Coach Dooley will be like a kid in a candy shop when he goes in and he sees all the plethora of sweets. That's how Coach Dooley, the offensive guru, will look at of that room. BJ, switch to the family situation, roster issues. I've stated how I felt about this. It's just a bad time and a horrible situation. Just a horrible situation. Your thoughts on the family roster issue?
I think that it shows basically a lack of commitment, and that goes from the top. The president. That falls on the shoulders of the president. Anytime you have a Division I institution that doesn't have anyone working compliance for months on end, and your solution to the issue is to pull someone from financial aid to work compliance, you kind of get these things. And if you're going to be in the business of Division I athletics, you have to handle yourself like an institution that's in the business of Division I athletics. We cannot continue to treat athletics as it's a recreational sport. And when we do that, we do a disservice to our kids, our alumni, and ultimately it takes a hit to not only the reputation of the school, but the reputation of HBCUs across the board, because the story is not going to be, it was just FAMU. It's, see, the HBCUs are doing it again. And you have to be careful with that. And it's time out for that. We've seen this story play out, and we have to get serious. If we're not going to be serious about competing and playing in Division I athletics, drop down Division II. You can still keep athletics, but you can play Division II. So that's my take on it.
Take/rant, but I agree 100%. Appreciate everybody who's watching in. I'm gonna read Chad Cooper's comment, and he says, "Good morning, Carlos. Institutions must invest in compliance employees. They're just as important as the NIL emphasis." And BJ, I think you have to really invest. And I put up a graphic earlier. You look at Southern University. Remember the issues that they had when Coach Odoms was here running the football program. They've invested. Now they have 4 people in compliance that'll handle that. And quite honestly, you could use more. But then you kind of look at some of the teams that FAMU won. That's unconscionable. You're right. So make an investment, resources, and then you have to get people who have expertise in certification, and then pay them accordingly. And that means pay them not a decent, but a very good salary. because
Absolutely.
they are part of the team athletics, team university. So they only got one. Shame on them. And Southern learned the hard way.
Yes.
Not only Southern, Texas Southern, Alabama State, but Dr. McClellan, when he was the director of athletics, they made the investment into getting more personnel to handle that. And FAMU, the last APR news came out, football program was 901. 930 is the minimum. You're just seeing the perfect storm as far as it's not going to be good. It is
Right.
not going to be good. And BJ, I don't know if you heard this, but Coach Simmons is very upset. According
Very.
to one of my sources, he was that close to just, resigning.
Yeah.
So I feel for FAMU, and it's not to make light of anything that they're going through, because being a Southern alum, I understand, but you got to make the investment.
We've gone through it. Yeah.
Yeah, and other institutions, but you must invest in the resources to get it done. BJ, closing comments, if you care to make some.
Man, look, I appreciate you having me, man. I know it was a kind of difficult, man. I'm here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, man, on unfortunate circumstances. I had an aunt to pass. So here, man, at the barbershop, man, trying to get ready for the funeral coming up here shortly. But, man, I just want to my aunt tuned into your show all the time to catch me on here with you. So, man, it's crazy, man, doing the show today without her. So, I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate everybody reaching out, your thoughts and your prayers, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on in a tough time, and thoughts and prayers to you and the family. Don't know the particulars, but, we often talk about when someone passes away. I use the term journey well. And although she's not here physically, she'll still be with you in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way to look at it. Appreciate her tuning in. And, man, you take care. Godspeed in your return back. And appreciate the time.
All right, man. See you next week.
All right. See you next week. Take care. That was Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU Sports. Want to say good morning to everyone that is tuning in. Johnny Johnson, Chuck Hunt, Michael Jones, Johnny Johnson Jr., Chad Cooper, colleague A.K. Drew, G. Boom Holland, Varick Williams, Michael Cavalier, Jamar Scott. Good morning. Appreciate you. Tell that lovely family hello. Chuck Hunt as well. And Henry Thurman is watching. Appreciate it. Willie Bolden. He says, how about the guy from Troy? Dunlap. DB for Southern University. Not active. I don't know what the situation is. I'll try to find out. I don't know if it's an academic issue. We'll try to find out. With that being said, I'm not going to take a timeout, or should I take a timeout? But my next guest is Coach Van Pettaway, the Coles Browns basketball analyst. We got a couple of things to talk about. So what I'll do, I will take a timeout. There you go. I got to be more consistent. When I come back, I'll visit with Coach Van Pettaway here on the Coles Brown Show. We'll be back after this quick timeout.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Ooh, yeah, that's nice. Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on? Sure, it's wireless. Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password? Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable. That's a really tight spot.
Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. It's been a couple of weeks since I talked to this young man. He is Coach Van Pettaway. Coach, good morning to you.
Good morning, Carlos. I hope everybody's I'm doing fine here in Huntsville. It's a great, beautiful Saturday morning.
Well, Coach, it's been raining cats and dogs in Baton Rouge. Coach, it all evens out in the long run, but rain, moisture, and humidity. And right now it's not raining, but it's 60% or better of rain all of next week. So you got to adjust and go with the flow, Coach.
Well, yeah, so that's going to affect football all over the SWAC because I think Mississippi was hit hard. We here in Huntsville, we were watching some of the footage of the flooding that's going on, and I was wondering how that was affecting Jackson State in their preparation for their season opener. So it's just a rough time, but in athletics, we as coaches and as players, we have to make adjustments, and so I think our teams in the SWAC, they'll make the necessary adjustments.
Well said. Yeah, you have to. You really have to. Couple of things I want to talk with you about, Coach Pettaway. One, and we kind of mentioned it last week on the show, that there was going to be a press conference in Huntsville. Alabama A&M was going to decide on a director of athletics, and they did. Mr. Bryant, Paul Bryant, is chosen to lead the Department of Athletics for Alabama A&M. Coach, give us your thoughts and perspective on the hire by Alabama A&M.
Well, I'm excited for the hire. I think our committee, if you listen to our president, they took their time. They didn't rush into it, and they wanted to make sure that they had the right fit for the program. And so I guess as Coach Saban says, we got to trust the process. They took the time to come up with a person. Coach Paul Bryant is familiar with the SWAC. He had a tenure at Grambling. He's also been in South Carolina State. He's coming to Alabama A&M from Edward Waters, a Division II school that is now in the SIAC. But he's well traveled. He knows what he's doing. I was really excited. I had an opportunity to watch the press conference, and he seems to be excited and energetic and ready to roll up his sleeves and go to work. And he feels that Alabama A&M is a gold mine, and it is. It's one of the shining stars. He just got to get in there, roll his sleeves up, get the support of the coaches, be a great fundraiser, and I think he'll be okay. But the biggest thing is, on our level, fundraising is the big key, because when you start talking about even your revenue sports, they all need additional dollars. But I think the big key to have a successful athletic program, you got to bring those other sports in line. Your other Olympic sports, your non-revenue sports, they have to have a piece of the pie that will allow them to have a outstanding program. So fundraising is the key, and hopefully he'll hit the ground running. And he'll do the things necessary to make sure that Alabama A&M does have an opportunity to be well respected in the SWAC and around this country.
Fundraising is key. I absolutely agree. And Coach, help me out. Huntsville, the largest growing city in Alabama. You get to make have relationships. Also, I would think from the outside looking in, the strong points of the athletic program will be football. Basketball has a new arena coming online that you can use for multiple events. Baseball is probably a sport that they want to update, but then men's basketball, great coach that we got a chance to talk with on the show, and then quietly as it's kept, women's basketball I think is done admirable at Alabama A&M. So he does have the pieces to work with. And Huntsville, the population, what exactly is the population or the metro population?
Well, we're up around 300,000. We're now the largest city, the number one city in the state of Alabama. I think that the biggest thing that we got going for us is, this is a tech city. This is technology is a big thing here. You got NASA, you got the Space and Rocket Center, the FBI headquarters is coming this way. The Air Force is making a trek into Huntsville. So you got a lot of things to, and he's just got to get out and tap the community. He's got to get out and knock on some doors to get the money's out there. We got to come up with a strategy to get more of those dollars to coming towards Alabama A&M. You're competing with with a Division II school across town, Alabama Huntsville. That right now their enrollment is about 10,000 students, and see that's where we got to go. That we got to set our sights higher. We need to get up into that 10,000 student range, and I think when you can attract more students, if your athletic programs are functioning well, you can attract more students, and it's just a win-win for everyone. So he's got his work cut out for him. But here's the big thing. In the state of Alabama, he's got the right name. Everybody knows about Paul Bryant. Just the other one, the one that built the Crimson Tide. So name recognition, he's got the name. He's just got to go out and use that name to his advantage and get into some of these doors. And I think he'll be okay. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's an exciting time. He's got to hit the ground running because, your football team plays in Thursday. Your soccer team is it's already underway. I think our soccer team is like 2-1. They beat Troy and they won a game. They beat Mercer and they beat Troy. So they beat two nice teams. They're 2-1. They lost their first game of the year. And I had an opportunity to meet those ladies and to meet those parents because I was involved in their arrival on campus, and we got a chance to meet and greet those parents. And so the soccer program, the women's soccer program, will be another team that I have adopted and to see them, just to see them get out of the gate with 2-1. I think that's great. So Paul Bryant has a lot of good things going in his favor. Our volleyball team, I think they're out playing off in a tournament. So things are running, and he's got to hit the ground running because the students are in, the school has started. And so now it's just a matter of everybody waiting on Thursday for the football team to kick off. And I think everything will be all right on the hill.
And they start off with some tough opponents. Colleague Brian Fulford has a question for you. I'm gonna read it to you. He's a co-host of the OG Strike Zone right here on the Black College Sports Network. He says, ask Coach how their search committee selected an AD 3 times faster than FAMU, who lost their AD 2 months before. And for the record, Brian Fulford is a Florida A&M graduate, alum.
Well, I think they were able to do that because our president made it a priority. When you look at that press conference, you had 2 out-of-state board members to show up for that press conference, so it was a priority. The board was behind our president. He didn't want to move too fast because at first they were looking at about 2 weeks. The thing ended up being almost 2 months. Since Brian Hicks moved over to the SWAC office, so they took their time. And maybe I think maybe perhaps at FAMU they might be looking at other areas, and maybe so they have to take their time to make sure that they get the right person in there. I think at most of these HBCUs, things are going to be different at each institution. It was just a priority number one at Alabama A&M to get an athletic director or to name one. And then if they didn't feel comfortable with the candidates that they had, they would have stayed with an interim because that was already on the table. So I just think that maybe I'm not familiar with what's going on at Florida A&M as to why it's taking so long. I think it could be a financial issue. Maybe they still owe the previous athletic director. They can't double up those salaries. A lot of times that's the big cause at most of our institutions. That's why you have gaps. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure because I'm not a part of that. I just hope that I hope they stay in a flux until the Bulldogs can get down there and get out of Tallahassee with a win in football. So with them being in the SWAC and a rival now and a big game coming up. In fact, I'm going to be at that game. I'm already made plans to be in Tallahassee. So I hope they're still in flux so that everything is off kilter and Coach Simmons won't have them ready to play so that the Bulldogs can get in there and get out with one. Make my trip a lot better, Carlos. It'll make my trip a lot better if we can get in there and get one.
A win. You want to win at all costs. Coach Van Pettaway of Alabama A&M. I would just say 2 words: high priority. I think for A&M, it was high priority. For FAMU, I'm on the outside looking in and just talking to Brian and other FAMU graduates. They are not happy about the whole situation. And when Courtney Gaucher, former vice president of athletics, was let go, it wasn't a sense of urgency to get his replacement in. And a lot of alum loved Coach Courtney Gaucher. But that's going to be an interesting situation. I really feel for the FAMU alum and graduates. But the sun will rise again for FAMU. Now,
hey, Carlos, Carlos, one quick thing. Another note on the hiring of Paul Bryant. You do know he has a basketball background, right? So now if you look at the athletic directors, in this conference now, basketball, right. There are quite a few. And so you just added to that list of athletic directors who have basketball in their background.
Yeah. And they got to be even killed because, look, they'll probably have an eye pointing over to basketball with a basketball background. I caught one time Coach Banks in a game 2 years ago. He had gotten out of his seat. It was at the end of the ball game. Southern won, but it was like, I'm not the coach anymore. And he sat back down. But he got so involved. Once it's in your blood, it's there, Coach.
Right. And then the other thing is, as basketball coaches, you have to make quick decisions. You got to make decisions on the fly. And I think that helps sometime in administration when things hit you at the last minute, because in your profession, you were able to make decisions on the fly. I think that helps sometimes. So that might be the trend now, but we are loaded with athletic directors who have that basketball background. And I think it's great. I think it's awesome.
It is. Maybe one day we'll have more of that ADs with a baseball background. But that'll be interesting. But it's still fun. They have a tough job. They really do. And a lot of times they hear it from alums you know, and they're kind of like they have to be balanced. You know, they have people they have to answer to, but then they are expected to make quick and tough decisions. So, with that being said, got about 3 more minutes. Kevin Durant, that
Right.
issue has finally been settled. I'm not going to say that I'm surprised, but he's staying with the Brooklyn Nets. And I'm just glad my team didn't bankrupt the team and turn over the roster to try to get the Slim Reaper, Kevin Durant.
Right.
But your thoughts on that?
Well, Carlos, I think, you know, we said this back when I was with you guys last, that I felt like as time went on that Kevin Durant would have no choice but to come back. Because I think what has really happened, the market was blown out of kilter when Utah did what they did with Gobert. I mean, there was no way that other teams would be able to match the offer that he got. And when you look at personnel, Rudy is a defensive player. Kevin Durant is might be the best all-around player in the game. So if they would give up all of that for Gobert, that meant that the ceiling, there was no ceiling for Kevin Durant, and no team would be able to match or give Brooklyn what they actually wanted when you look at the market. So they messed themselves up. So the Brooklyn team now has to make sure that mentally they're ready to play. Durant, Irvin, if he's going to be there, all three of those guys got to get together and say, "Hey, man, let's play. Let's do what we were hired to do." Because with a new 4-year contract, it was hard moving that many dollars, and the compensation, that was the big key. They were not going to get what they wanted to replace him. So the best thing was, hey, let's figure out a happy medium. Let's figure out how you can remain here, because we're not getting rid of our GM. We're not getting rid of our coach. We want you to be a part of it, and let's sit down and work this out. And they did it, and I'm happy to see that. I'm happy for the sport, man. We got to stop all of this. These guys holding these team hostage because, you know, they get their feelings hurt or their ego gets in the way. For whatever reason he had for wanting to get out of there, I'm glad it's been resolved for the game of basketball.
And you know what else? I agree, Coach. And now in the future, the CBA, collective bargaining agreement, now the league is like, we got to make sure we have something in place that this doesn't happen again. That is going to be an interesting fight. It really is.
Right.
Well, Coach, have you done any fishing lately, or is it going to be time to go get some fish? Because I'm going to put my order in for some fish.
Well, there's always good fishing, man. When the weather gives us a break, we get out there on that water, and we'll be doing the same thing again next week. We'll sneak out there a couple of days and get us some in. That's one of the most relaxing things that you can do. Is very competitive. It's you against them, and it's very relaxing for me being on the water. So I love fishing.
I love to eat fish, Coach. I'm not good at fishing. I've only tried it a few times in my adult life, but maybe I need to give it a second chance. Guess what? One thing about water, there's a lot of water in South Louisiana.
Oh yes.
It is a lot of water. Coach, to you and your family, stay blessed, continue to be safe, and we will talk again real soon. I'm sure something basketball is gonna hop up very soon, but we'll get you back on. Doesn't just have to talk about basketball. It could be anything. We like hearing from you.
Well, Carlos, thank you. Continue to keep up the good work, and everybody be safe, and God bless.
God bless. Thank you, Coach. That was Coach Van Pettaway here on the Carlos Brown Show. Going to take a quick time out. When I come back, the Dean of HBCU Sports, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, joins me next. I'm going to get his thoughts and perspective. I guess I'll get my pen and paper, get ready to take some notes. I'm going to class. The lecture will start. He's going to join me next on the Carlos Brown Show, going to talk about the impact of HBCU Go, Byron Allen's media group, the impact on Black College Sports. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network. I'll be right back.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say... Hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Q Time is a classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
Stillman College is an HBCU in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where we prepare students for a different world. Stillman is a college of distinction for last year and this year. Our largest majors are business and biology, followed closely by psychology, criminal justice, and history for pre-law, communications, English, and religion. Our newest degree programs are in the Department of Computational Sciences, which covers cybersecurity, data analytics, and math. The Biomedical Academy prepares students for competitive entry into health professions and graduate programs. We have established summer biomedical research internships with major research institutions, such as the University of Alabama, Drexel and Temple Universities in Philadelphia, the Salk Institute in San Diego, California, and the universities of Florida, Indiana, and Iowa. We became creative with social distancing and masks for the pandemic. Our students enjoy movie nights at the stadium and the new Melissa and Davis Legacy Courtyard, where you can eat and enjoy friends. We have the Divine Nine Greek letter organizations, student government leadership, and ambassadors. Our small class sizes, nurturing faculty, and friendly environment let you know that Black Lives Matter at Stillman College each and every day. Applications are free. Sign up at discover.stillman.edu. Complete the contact card and apply today. Stillman College, where we prepare students for a different world.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Joined now by the Dean. That's enough. Simply say the Dean, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill. Dr. Cavill, good morning to you, sir. I appreciate you making some time out to come on the Carlos Brown Show. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. It's good to be here. How's it going this morning? Been listening to the show.
Well, it's going fast. Special time on this Saturday, but next Saturday we'll be back to our regular schedule time. But a lot going on in the HBCU landscape. We're going to kind of get your thoughts on a couple of things. I told you one assignment, but I'm going to throw another one on there. But I know you can handle it. I guess before we get to our main part of the discussion, of course, FAMU with their football roster and ineligible players. So that whole situation, get your response to that, the situation that happened with FAMU, which is just, unbelievable. And I really feel for FAMU alums and graduates and supporters.
Yes, certainly. As fans of HBCU sports, obviously a SWAC, we tend to really wear these things on our shoulder probably more than the average fan of any collegiate or professional sporting entity, or even on the interscholastic level for that matter. But it really gets to the point when you boil this down, and I'm really not one of those that like to point the fingers openly in terms of leadership, whether that's at the athletics department level or at the presidential level. But in a lot of ways, and I think the president, by his statement, owned that. So it's easier for me to do it here, that this is a statement in regards to the commitment of the president, chancellor of an institution, and understanding the gravity in terms of finances. Now, before we go to an institutional level, there's one thing that I would regret if I didn't put this out there. This is another example, and we cannot talk enough about this. We cannot allow this to escape. This is another example of the deprivation of resources that state legislatures have done to HBCUs for years. So those appropriations that we have seen actually from a legal perspective. So I'm not just saying this because I'm, somebody that is frustrated. This is legally have been proven through the court system. If you want to look at that process where there have been legislative court awards of money that was not going to HBCU public institution for years, upwards to, $500 million. That is significant. You can't just watch that away and act as if that has not affected the growth of these institutions, which means the appropriation of the faculty and due pay for faculty, which obviously pays a lot in terms of the students, the human resource areas in terms of manpower, which gets us back to the issue here. This is a manpower issue in regards to how many folks do you have physically in positions to work the network between academics and athletics for the governance process of being NCAA institution operating at the Division I FCS level. And that falls on the president to set up the framework to make sure that there's adequate resources in that area and make sure that there's timely hiring of individuals when they leave for whatever reason, paying that. And then secondarily, it falls on the athletic administrator to make sure that they are making the argument in such a way that the president understands and or chancellor of why it is important to support this. And third, I would point that finger right back at me in terms of alumnus of an institution to make sure that we are doing our part of paying into the resources for an institution. So those are the four different levels that I would look at that puts us in a position of what you saw taking place this past weekend.
And Dr. Cavill, we've seen this before. Me and you would talk about the situation, and I thought about what when Southern University had their issues, and there were minimal people in the process as far as compliance. And now we put up a graph courtesy of Mr. Beckman, who put a tweet out about the number of manpower in our HBCUs as far as in the compliance. Southern kind of learned a valuable and hard lesson, and they were able to add from 1 to now 4. Question, Dr. Cavill, and that's an upgrade, but how about even more? And then finding those personnels that really have an interest and expertise in that field, that area, excuse me, and then trying to get more of them and pay them a good salary.
Yeah, that's an excellent question in regards to understanding that. And obviously, for somebody that would want it, I would be wrong to say that asking for more is not something that you need. But I want us to be careful. It's not just about getting more. And I saw that tweet, and I think it was an excellent tweet in regards to breaking down the numbers. But I responded to that tweet this morning after seeing it and added on the fact that we need to be careful because it's not just compliance. One of the things that we have a bad habit of looking at an individual or an individual area. When these things happen, it's across
the board
framework that goes on. It's not just one area. It's multiple areas of failures that have taken place. There is also a partnership in compliance that deals with student welfare, or what they call, academic programs within that athletic department. So there's a partnership between compliance, athletic academic, enhancement, if you want to call it, as they do in some areas. And then the third area is the register office. These areas work in a triangular effort to make it all work. So it's not just compliance. We have to be careful there. So I asked him if he would do that same type of project and look in the academic assessment or enhancement area to see what the numbers are. Because you might have 3 in compliance, but have 4 in the academic enhancement, and then somebody in the registrar's office, and that's a total of 8. That's significant versus, let's say that you have 4 in compliance and 3 in academic enhancement. When you look at those total areas, if you're talking about 6 to 8, 9 folks, then that can be significant in terms of getting the job done. So it's not just about one particular area, it's the multiplicity, if you would, of all those areas and how they work in concert with each other. And another issue is making sure that there's somebody that has some legacy in those areas. And so there's some cross training for the next individual to move up. We have to understand that in athletics that it's a natural churning area because people are looking for their next opportunity. And it's not always about how much you pay somebody. It's about their ability for growth. So you either have to build in growth in that department where people can grow to their next achievement level, or they're going to grow and leave out, which is fine. That is what happens in athletics. You have assistant coaches, they go to head coaches. You talked about that little area. That's no different between somebody that works in SID. Most people don't want to be a SID for 10, 15 years sitting there. Even if they're getting raises, they want an opportunity to enhance their career, look at different things they're doing. So you have to build that into the model, whether it is cross-training where they do multiple things, or it's providing them areas for academic growth where they can become associate, assistant athletic directors, and looking for them opportunities. So you have a tree, just like we talk about coaches, that you have athletic administrators with trees where these folks go out and get other jobs. Well, when they do that, you have to have a backfilling mechanism so that you're not always going outside, that there's some opportunities where you have growth up within your organization, And why that is important is because they know how you operate. They understand the culture. You do not always want to be starting from anew when you bring people in. That is a lot of lag time when you bring people in. It's not because they're not necessarily good. It's because they have to get up to speed. Well, that's a lot of wasted time when we're talking about business and athletics, which never stops. So it's about understanding the concert, if you would, right, of the ensemble of a whole orchestra of athletics. How does it all work together? You know, when we go to these choir concerts, it's about everybody singing together that makes the beautiful music. We have to stop looking at this in terms of isolation and pointing the finger at one, because remember, when you point that finger, there are three coming back at you. So when I talk to my students about understanding athletics and going into leadership, it's about understanding how do you create the partnership. And this is really leadership in any organization. For those that study this or look at this or understand it, they'll know what I'm talking about. This is no difference if any organization you become an leader. It's about taking people and understanding their traits and their expertise and grooming them such a way that they lean on those expertise, improving their weaknesses, and developing others to understand the goal that you're trying to achieve and making a plan to get there, the strategic plan.
And I would also call it, being in the school system now for year 2, locally, professional growth. We have something like that, you know, and teachers, you know, we have a shortage of teachers. You have teachers aid, and there's an opportunity to professionally grow for those who want to become teachers. That's a tough job. That's a tough job.
I mean, I'm a teacher at heart when you talk about a broccoli person that's at a college level. But when you talk about the heart, that's one of the bottom line things that I have to be able to do. You know, I talk about lecturing, but the bottom part of it is teaching. And why I come on these shows and do my own show, and it's earnest. If you melt it down, that's really what I do in terms of ours. We entertain, but it's so much about teaching the business of sport from an entertainment perspective, understanding the culture of HBCUs, right? The sports culture pedagogy, as I like to put it now. Y'all get ready, because there's a shirt coming out with that. You know, I'm also a capitalist, since we live in a capitalistic society, so I understand about generating revenue, right? So
you're right.
Put that out there. And that'll get us, as we turn and start talking about a little of the money in terms of the television. But before we do that, to your point, the teaching education system is a perfect example. One of the things that has always concerned me as I moved over from engineering to education, education is one of the few disciplines out there where people that are not in the field, that have not been trained teachers in terms of pedagogists, are on boards that govern education. You will not see a dentist making decisions for other dentists out there that never has been into practice. Engineering, medical doctors, right? You'll never see that in those areas. Psychologists at the highest level. You don't see people on the board of psychologists not making decisions for it. Education, unfortunately, is only one. And there's a history to that. I won't waste your time on that. But when you look at it now, that is a major concern when you have folks that are not experts in their field making decisions on the field in regards to wondering why we don't have the growth and the trouble we have in. And one of those things is, again, you have to understand of how you pay teachers accordingly for their expertise. And when you have a master teacher, do not let them teach out to become principals or whatever. Pay them accordingly so they want to stay in the classroom versus them getting out because the money dictates that there's more money becoming a superintendent or principal, right? Going into higher education. And so that's why you lose people again. You have to pay them accordingly, but groom them in positions where you award them for their expertise. In the academic profession of higher education, you know, you can come in as an adjunct professor. Y'all hear me joke, but I'm doing that to educate folks about what does higher education look like for being a professor. So I come in talking about whether you're an adjunct, a clinical professor, a visiting professor, right? Or a assistant professor with tenure, or on the tenure track, becoming associate professor with tenure, becoming a professor with tenure, right? Those are all the different levels of how you move up the tenure track and have a governance structure about your expertise, for the most part,
in higher education. So these are important frameworks to understand the governing structure of hierarchy of what does that look like when you had just said in any profession, how do you provide people with the opportunity to cross-train and move up in their expertise? If you want to keep good people.
You can see I made notes
Thank
while
you.
you were
I
talking.
appreciate it.
And we'll be able to talk a little bit more.
Oh, yeah. You know, we always
know
talk
what?
offline. I appreciate those conversations. You think I'm teaching
Yes,
you,
sir.
but people don't realize I get so much back by the question because it makes me make sure that I'm doing my work to understand and deliver answers that people can understand. So I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate having you on. You're never too old to learn. You're always learning something new. So I knew to have my pen and paper handy to make some notes quickly because we got about a few minutes left. I wanted to just kind of get your thoughts on the importance of the Allen Media Group, HBCU Go, and their. I know you can't. The answer could be 20 minutes long. I understand that, but just a basic, quick answer to that. The impact of that. The shorter
It
version.
is I put it this way. It is the most impactful decision that has come to HBCU sports, athletics, if you would, since the beginning of sports. It is that big. Is that changing in terms of HBCU since you had the formation of conferences? It's that significant.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to ask right now that we will definitely get you back on next week. I don't know what your schedule is because I know it's going to be week 1 in college football, but we must set aside some time to kind of go even further in the specifics because it's huge, and you know, I'm able to watch on social media and the conversations back and forth about the SWAC and for as their contracts and what they're trying to do as far as the brand and the content and all of that. I really do be watching, but that's not my expertise. So my thing is to get someone on who can kind of explain it specifically, the advantages. And I see sometimes that something is a disadvantage, but I try to look at the advantages, the pros, and you look at the cons, but most of the pros, because to me, from the outside looking in, I thought it was just huge, Dr. Cavill, what the
No,
SWAC
you're
and
absolutely correct.
yeah.
It's huge, and you're right. You need to look at the pros and the cons, but there are more pros with this. Obviously, this is the largest deal that we've seen at the FCS level, without a question. There's no other conference that's even close. It's so large that it gets into the G5 area, where the conference members will be taking home more annual pay than just about all the G5 member conferences. So it's that significant that you're getting into the FBS level. And so anybody that understands that payouts are usually more than that. And then you got to remember that this is essentially a secondary deal, right? So you had this originally when you had the exclusionary deal. Credit to Dr. Charles McCullough, the commissioner of the SWAC, that he was able to get some of that inventory back. That was not an easy task because the contract with ESPN originally talked about that they had exclusionary rights, that they had all the rights. And somehow he was able to get them to understand that them warehousing the rights was not enough for the SWAC. And so now you have essentially a contract that allows a primary rights, which is ESPN. They essentially get first pick. And now you're going to have HBCU go through the Byron Allen Media Group, right? That will get secondary rights. So not only do you need to look at what is the payout for the secondary rights, you got to add that to whatever the conference already gets for the primary rights. So now it's total. So you got secondary rights that are more than what I just told you about those other groups. Now you got to add on what ESPN is paying. And when that contract comes up, you know everything is trajectory upward. So whether you take it out for bid or go back with ESPN, what they're going to pay is going to be more. So you're talking about in literally 5, maybe shorter, but at least 5 to 7 years, you're talking about a conference that is taking on significant money. I can see anywhere from like $2.5 million to $3 million essentially going out to each school. And that's just estimates that I've seen with numbers around there. So it could be even more than that, but that's probably pretty conservative that each conference had. And think about this with that. Sorry to be too long with that, but think about this. Mississippi Valley's overall operating revenue is like 3.5. If they're able to get another $3 million, that's essentially doubling the impact of what they do and whatever they're able to commit to the operational budget.
That is outstanding. Dr. Cavil, on that note, appreciate it. Let's see if we can get you back next week with a little more allotment of time, because what you're talking about is very important. Want to thank all of the guests on today's show, Melody producing. Make sure you tune in next Saturday at our regular scheduled time at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time for the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Until next time, as always, peace and God bless.